All righty, we're coming to you live from KubeCon here in Salt Lake City. I'm here with Sheng Liang. How are you, sir?
Very good. How are you, Barton?
It's always a pleasure, so I'm doing well. So now, Acorn Labs, we did a interview maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, and that was when you came out with GPT script, and you talked something about maybe we're going to do one of these stacks, et cetera. And it sounds like you made some sort of announcement today. So what was that?
Yeah, we actually haven't finished building the whole product using GPT out of GPT script yet. But as an open source company, we build everything in the open. And there wasn't any big announcement today, but we're basically showing whatever we've got so far to the KubeCon attendees here in Salt Lake City.
So I think the name I heard was Otto8, and you got a really cool little not logo, but a mascot that you've been doing. So what is Otto and then the number 8?
Yeah, this is GPT script is a great name for a language for developers, right? What it does is GPT script, what it does is it connects large language models to your systems. Like a system is something like a Kubernetes cluster, anything with an API endpoint or CLI or web interface, something that a machine or a human could use. That's a system. And that's what GPT script does. But then when you think about building
And
the whole,
it's natural language.
yeah, because
So I don't
that's
have to
how
be an engineer or somebody smart.
exactly. So through GPT script, like you can control your say Salesforce instance to figure out what are the leads that you generated last month, or you could compose an email and have it sent through your Office 365. So that's, or figure out what nodes, what pods, what clusters you have in Kubernetes. So that's what GPT script does. But so then we basically build a whole enterprise grade product around GPT script that enables a business to do a chatbot, something like ChatGPT. The difference between something you build using like our software versus the standard ChatGPT is the standard ChatGPT pretty much gives you information about, what's there on the internet, right? Like all the latest news and stuff. I think it's able to go fetch now through a browser tool. But other than that, it doesn't really know anything about your own data. It doesn't know
And
about your
they
own
don't have
systems.
they don't have integrations with the different.
Exactly. So that's what our system is supposed to do. And just like any of these systems in AI, you got to give it a name. You got to usually these names kind of have to be. It's almost like a person's name, like Siri, right?
Right.
So that's why we came up with Otto, OTTO. Uh, so we've been using that, and except Otto is very, very, very common name, especially in Germany. There's a big company
Otto
called
von Bismarck.
yeah, exactly. And we said since this is more like a robot, and we're thinking about automate, then finally someone added the number 8 at the back, and Otto8. It sounds like C2, yeah,
R2D2.
2D2, yeah, C3PO, and
Right.
then you'd have these. So our logo is a robot, and that's what we're sticking with right now.
So to get there, would you go to GitHub/Otto8? Do you go to Otto8? Do you have a vanity that then takes you auto8-.com? It takes you to the GitHub repository.
Yeah. So the great thing about Otto8 is, given it's such a unique name, you type it into Google, it'll get you there.
Nice. So you've got this platform that people can use. So you've got the GPT script, which is sort of a low code, no code way chatbot. And then you've got the whole stack from, say, if you GPT, but it doesn't have to be chat GPT, right? There's a lot of different platforms
Yeah.
you can use.
Yeah. So GPT script is a way to integrate L, like OpenAI or Llama into your systems and data. And this is really some still targeting developers. It's a scripting language. It's a scripting language based on natural language, but it's still a scripting language.
So it's not like you today, ChatGPT, I put in, I'm having problems with connecting my phone to my laptop. What might be going on? And here's the error message. And we just talk back and forth. In other words, I don't have to do any coding, but this is something that still has a scripting language.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really writing any traditional code, but with GPT script, you still got to put it in a file in a specific format, and you're gonna invoke the GPT script interpreter or runtime to run it, and it'll give you the answer. But that would be a very awkward way for normal users, business users, to interact with AI. Now, Otto8 is is a chatbot, right? It is something that works just like ChatGPT, except it's ChatGPT plus. So since, like I said, it doesn't just gives you information about, doesn't just give you information that's already on the internet. You can add your own knowledge into it. You can add your PDF doc. You can add websites, your internet website. You can
Things like Salesforce, I think you mentioned. Could you
that
integrate
would
with
be a
that?
tool. So by your Salesforce account,
Right.
you can add to it your Google account if if you wanted to read
Gmail.
Gmail or create Google Docs, or your Office 365 account if you wanted to read your Microsoft email, Outlook email, or understand your PowerPoint docs that's stored in your Office 365. So that it is really a complete system that the the IT team, typically the IT will still deploy. It's open source software. The IT would deploy, and then IT would configure. IT would decide, okay, I'm gonna make these tools available. I'm going to make, because if I'm the IT department, most IT departments probably, for big companies, probably don't use Google, but they use Office 365, right? And they may have SAP, they may have Salesforce, they may have Workday, so those would have to be integrated.
And so that question around the integration, how easy is that to do? Do they have to write connectors? And is the plan maybe to consider these modules or services, and you'll have an app or services repository where people will pick them? How would that work, like people do for Backstage?
Yeah, great question. So out of the box, I think even on our first release, you'll see dozens of integration already. So all the popular stuff,
So
like
you're
yeah, like
supplying-
Office, like Google, like Notion, like Slack, you'll get it out of the box. But what we also see is a lot of customers, they see they have internal tools, they have proprietary tools, they have custom tools, custom apps, and they have maybe standard tools, but the authentication is done in a non-standard way, right? So in order to do all of that, yeah, we have a framework which is based on GPT script. Now that's the level GPT script works at.
So is it like an SDK or more higher abstraction, another easier?
It's easier than the coding-based SDK. It's like I said, it's based on GPT script, so it's still largely just scripting and no code. But you basically do whatever it takes to get to make these make your systems and data available to Otto8. Then we're able to uh, uh, expose it, and we're able to automate it from that point forward.
So will permissions and control be a big part of this? In other words, let's say I'm a salesperson. Could I get access to whatever I wanted? Or is it, hey, you only have privileges for Salesforce and for Workday?
Yeah. So in a typical deployment, like I said, IT would deploy the Otto8 platform. Then IT would decide what apps and what data is available. Typically, if it's data, you load it in, it's available for everyone.
Right.
Data would be like, a PDF. That's the employee handbook. That's a piece of
Right.
data,
Right.
right? And then IT would say these apps are also available, but then apps have to be authenticated. And authentication is done by the users of Otto8. If I'm using Otto8, I would authenticate through Otto8. So all the apps that Otto8 uses would also I have to authenticate. So that means I'm only using these apps to the degree that I can use it myself. So if I'm so that way, like for example, if there's say a Workday integration, when I use Workday automation through Otto8, I'm only accessing the data in Workday that would have already have access to. And if you go in and see, you'll see your data, and there'll be no danger of cross pollination or pollution between different accounts, which is a
So
big
I
issue.
couldn't see your birthday, how much money you make, this kind of stuff.
And then, by the way, this is pretty important because a lot of the AI work in the old days came out of big data and analytics, and honestly, if you're not careful, like I know that a lot of businesses are still building big data warehouses, and these things you have to be very careful. Big data warehouses are very powerful, but access control these warehouses is not easy because you essentially have to replicate uh, a very sophisticated access control system uh, that's already in your apps. Now you have to replicate it in your data warehouse as well. So that, and if you're not, let's just say, if you're not careful, even if the user cannot directly access these data warehouse, let's just say you accidentally trained a model using your data warehouse, then that information could escape through, right? So in our world, that cannot happen because we make it very clear. If it's data, if it's documents, then it's available for everyone. If it's information that you need access control, then you only access it as an app, which means something that you would invoke through an API or CLI or web page, and something you already have to authenticate. And you always get it dynamic.
So would you then look for other, so we talk about things like Workday and Salesforce, would there be other, I'm sure there's a bazillion different things that could integrate. Would you look for them, you give them the SDK, whatever the like thing, and have them integrate? How, or will it be simple? We have like a translator that connects it.
Yeah, so out of the box, Otto8 will have a very rich set of connectors. And then we will have an SDK, a plugin SDK, a tools SDK that anyone could use. System integrators could use, customers could use themselves. We're gonna, be certainly be offering some professional services to our early customers to just help them create the connectors they need to create. But in general, those are pretty small level of effort because see the difference is the way these AI these LLM based interaction with the tools are actually at a fairly coarse granularity level because they really have to interface with the tools like a human. And typically these integrations are not done at a fine grain like API level. To just give you an idea, the like to create. Just give an example. Since we're at KubeCon, cloud conference. So say the cloud API. We all know cloud APIs well, like an Amazon EC2 API. These are actually fairly complicated. If you want to create a VM instance on Amazon, you typically needed specify the region, the availability zone, the security group, the SSH keys. There are probably dozens and dozens of APIs, separate API calls you have to make to just get something created. But typically, if we were doing a tools integration with AWS, we typically don't do that level of integration. You would think about integration that typically what a human would be able to understand. Like either it's the CLI or you have a lot of defaults. You do things at a much higher level. Like if an IT department is going to expose EC2 integration as a tool in Otto8, they will create this EC2 instance integration that would just take a few arguments that the user have to worry about. The rest would just be decided by IT, right? So really the complexity that in general Otto8 or these AI systems to deal with is usually at the level what a human deal with, not typically not at the level that typically the machine used to deal with.
So, and speaking of integrations, you're going to need something to run this on. You're going to need LLM. You could, from what I understand, could be Claude. It could be
Yeah.
Chat GPT. What else would you need to plug into this? Would you be able to run it on Llama in EC2, or how would that work?
Yeah. So this system requires a L endpoint, and the most popular endpoint is OpenAI. So with OpenAI, it's very powerful, and it's also becoming very cheap, and you can use it, with an OpenAI API key. And for customers who already have uh, an Azure account, OpenAI is also available through Azure. Uh, but not every customer wants to use OpenAI or has an Azure account. Then they could also use AWS or use Google, and then they support a slightly different set of models, or they could run their own open source model like Llama 3.
Mhm.
And and really the Otto8 framework is the platform is model agnostic. Although for a certain set of tasks, certainly not all the models created. We would certainly recommend that if you're into fairly complex tools calling, the models that the OpenAI and OpenAI derivatives today still have a significant leg up.
So if we talk about business models, you've obviously been doing open source for years now, and there are different ways to monetize it. And of course, recently we've had a lot of people switch and unopen source things. We've had changing licenses, getting new licenses. How how are you going to be positioning this, at least at first, as far as what's open source, how you make your money, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very, very early market. We're literally just still defining the category. This is not even like this is not even the last thing, because these days, I mean, people are comparing what we do to something called uh, Microsoft uh, Copilot Studio. So, Microsoft initially did Copilot. Initially,
Or from
GitHub did Copilot. Then Microsoft said, I'm going to extend the idea of Copilot to Windows and to Office. But that's Microsoft Copilot. Now they said they want to do a studio so that other tools like, even Salesforce or anything, right? Or Kubernetes, they could integrate with Copilot as well. So that's similar to what we're doing. So that's literally where we are today. So this is almost like, this is not even like create Elasticsearch in 2005 or 2006, whenever it was created. This is almost like creating Elasticsearch before the first search engine even existed.
Yeah.
Like very early. We're talking about very early. So we got to get the product right. We got to try to get as much adoption as possible. And there's so many opportunities, frankly, that right now, and the technology is evolving so quickly. Enterprise customers who are serious about this, they will need support. So that's why initially and for the foreseeable future, we're just going with 100% open source and a support-based model. That's probably it's simple for us, simple for customers. It's as much as we can deal with right now. And over time, if what I mean in 5-10 years, if we actually hit product market fit, if product actually takes off like Elasticsearch did, right? Then we could think about providing a proprietary add-on, or think about potentially other models, but we're so far away from it, frankly, right now.
So are you at MVP level, or are you past that and you're actually things where people can take it and do stuff with it?
We're close. I believe we're close to an MVP level, and we're always even developing the open, but before we feel really comfortable about it, we don't really promote it too much, right? But people still organically discover it anyway, and then we'll work with it. That's about as much as we can handle right now. And 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 at some point in the next few weeks before the end of the year, we're sitting here. It's mid November, so I mean, in the next 4 weeks, uh, uh, I think I believe uh, the product will be good enough. Well, from our perspective, then maybe we can start promoting it. And our plan is next year, our customers will actually be able to use it, and we'll be able to offer a paid support plan.
So for today, the announcement you're making is that what?
We're just doing the demo today.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not even we didn't do any press. We
Okay.
didn't do, but we're not.
Were you
We're
doing
also
press
not.
now? Here's
Yeah, also we're not keeping it under wraps. There's no, there's really no, uh, uh, there's no secret that we want to keep away from open source community. Okay.
And I think that's the real important thing. I know when we were doing Sputnik, the developer laptops, you just let people know when we put out the ISO, hey, this is really rough. If you try the palm detection is weird, so you're going to get this issue. So people know you're not trying to tell them, hey, this is great, but you get the people who feel comfortable with that, and then they give you input. So one thing, and this is maybe way down the road, but I think that the real power could be where you're not using individual isolated applications, but you as a person can call on, I want to do X, and then it does all the back end, whether that's taking your Gmail and connecting it to Workday and to the, resources on the PaaS or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, whatever we do now, even though it is literally literally, you could call it just a chatbot. Maybe it's more than a chatbot because it actually maintains some artifacts. It's probably honestly a bit more than a chatbot now, but it's still something very similar to a chatbot. But it is, since these things can also be triggered in the back end without human intervention, and it doesn't just do it doesn't just do like a simple one-shot or multi-shot interaction with the user. It can actually execute workflows. So that's why these things are now being called agent. Okay, so it's the term agent you guys have definitely heard of, and I think it's pretty important. Fundamentally, I think agent or assistant or co-pilot, in my view, they're all synonyms. They're just different degree of automation. Agent, you would think it's almost fully autonomous,
Right.
whereas an assistant or especially co-pilots just suggesting some answers for you, right? But fundamentally, they're all trying to make a business user's work life easier. A good example would be, maybe if you think about business users these days, what do your work life mostly consist of? Read emails, process information, logging to multiple SaaS accounts, right? Yeah, create presentation, send email, right? That's basically it. And that's what Otto8 can do. We some of the typical use cases that we've run into so far, like one was say an insurance process. They get these emails which are basically insurance claims. They come in sometimes as poorly formatted emails directly from their customers, and with a bunch of attachments. Some are documents, some are phone pictures, and then you're supposed to evaluate it, and you're supposed to understand the company's policy, then you create some kind of an action plan going forward, right? And human can do a pretty good job, but not always right. The AI can actually do a much better job. But
Right.
even though it's not 100% accurate, but imagine just like the way GitHub Copilot generates code for the human to review, in this case, an insurance processor Copilot would also generate the suggested response, and then a human would be able to go. It's a lot easier for human to review than to create, right? So the human would review it, and it not only makes the insurance processors a lot more efficient, but it also makes the job much more interesting, right? Now his mind is more challenged.
You worked in the higher level.
Less grunt work, right? So it's I think this is, so we're not worried about, whatever we're building today, the today's models are more than good enough in terms of capabilities. Now, we wish they could be faster and cheaper, which is happening.
Right.
But we're not looking for miracles. We're not riding on any hype. We're not waiting for any major like AGI breakthrough to happen. I really think with better platforms like Otto8 or like Microsoft Copilot Studio, I think the next level of productivity improvement could be unleashed, and folks would have much better work-life balance. People will be doing much more interesting jobs, and overall uh, the productivity economy would just grow to the next level.
Yeah, I think high concept and low execution is not a good thing. You start with something that you can actually do, people start using it, and you can go from there. So if people want to check this out, where should they go?
Oh, just go to Google and search for Otto8, or go to auto8.ai.
So once again, OTTO8, the number 8.
.ai.
Cool. Well, Sheng Liang, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'm interested in talking to you in 6 months to hear
Yeah.
where you're at.
Absolutely. It was great talking to you. Great to catch up, Barton, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Awesome. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.